asking questions, who looked at me with respect and made me feel that my life mattered.
Hoy pero no. Santo Padre, gracias por acercarse a las personas migrantes.
Holy Father, thank you for being here and for drawing close to migrants. When I arrived in Spain at such a difficult time as the pandemic, I felt lost. I had left everything behind and did not know where to begin. But I found people who welcomed me without asking questions, who looked at me with respect and made me feel that my life mattered. Little by little, I began to trust again, to get back on my feet, and to believe that I could move forward. Today I have a job and have been able to begin a new chapter in my life. I know that God has guided my steps. My wish now is to return to my country for a few days, embrace my family, and share with them how I am doing, because it has not been easy for them either. I also want to be an example to others. That's why I offer you a replica of my residence permit. It represents a long period of waiting and effort, but also a life restored to dignity. Thank you to those who welcome others, for when a person is welcomed, they discover that they never cease to have a place in the world.
Ya ve que es un luchador, ya ve que ha intentado aprender incluso su discurso de memoria y los nervios le han fallado.
He learned his discourse by heart, but his nerves, his anxiety betrayed him, so he had to read it. Now we hear from Alba, a social worker and she is a volunteer with the project Hope of the Adorers Sisters, which accompanies women who are victims of trafficking and exploitation. Alicia's testimony. Holy Father, I come before you on behalf of the many volunteers of the social ministry of the Diocese of Madrid who live their mission as a humble service to the Church and to the most vulnerable. For us, accompaniment is a concrete way of proclaiming the gospel, being close, listening, caring, and recognizing the dignity, sacred dignity of every person. I always remember Moses before the burning bush when God says to him, "Take off your sandals, from the place where you are standing is holy ground." That is why we offer you these sandals as a sign of respect, service, and of the many paths we have shared with those who suffer most.
Y que son para mí, junto a muchas de las personas que están aquí, un ejemplo de fortaleza. Es gente que se pone en pie, que alza la mirada y que afronta la vida con esperanza. Gracias.
Pope Leo XIV has received the gifts of those representing the volunteers, the beneficiaries of the project, the Cáritas workers. And I think now we're going to listen to a short concert.
Pone su arte al servicio de este encuentro con usted. En la víspera de la solemnidad del Corpus, la canción que vamos a escuchar nos recuerda que el amor de Dios se entrega, se parte y se comparte, que no se queda lejos, sino que se hace cercanía y presencia. La canción que va a escuchar se titula Incomparable. Ha adaptado un tema original suyo a este momento.
So this song has been especially adapted for this event.
También agradecida por la esperanza y por ese amor de Dios que se hace gesto y acto concreto en cada gesto de acogida. En este lugar, en CEDIA, donde tantas personas han encontrado, como estamos escuchando, ese descanso, pues este canto adquiere un sentido especial.
So this song has a special significance. It's been especially tailored to fit this occasion and to speak of the people who live this reality. Spain, of course, has a wonderful tradition of Spanish guitar music.
Veo la melancolía en tu mirada, pero el Señor derramó su sangre para salvarla. Y ahora que se cae la tarde y yo me quedo sola, no dejo de pensar en ti. Y qué bonito conocerte y tenerte como te tengo yo. Te quiero, mi Señor. Sabes que tuvo que ser una vida inigualable. A veces lloro sin saber por qué. Será porque yo te tengo delante y donde yo te puedo ver, aunque solo sea un instante. Te amo. Agua donde yo puedo beber, eres una fuente inagotable. Tú le diste vida y a mi ser. Gracias por ser incomparable. Y en cada sueño te busqué y ninguno fue en balde. Te amo. A veces, mi Señor, a veces siento que me abraza y escucho el eco de tu voz y se derrama tu caridad por los rincones de esta casa. Eres el Salvador. Sabes que tuvo que ser una vida inigualable. A veces lloro sin saber por qué. Será porque yo te tengo delante, porque yo te puedo ver, aunque solo sea un instante. Te amo. Agua donde yo puedo beber, eres una fuente inagotable y tú le diste vida y a mi ser. Gracias por ser incomparable. En cada sueño te busqué y ninguno fue en balde. Te amo. Viviré una
a moving performance there in true Spanish flamenco tradition. Wonderful guitarmanship, percussions, and this very flamenco voice. Beautiful. She almost broke into dance there. And now Pope Leo XIV. It's the Pope's turn to... He sat down again. Okay, so the presenter's back on stage.
Le invitamos a, por favor, a que nos dirija su mensaje. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you, says Pope Leo XIV.
Como ven, yo tampoco he memorizado mi discurso. Entonces, como estamos todos aquí en familia.
We're like here in the family. Your Eminence, Your Excellencies, dear brothers and sisters, I am very happy to begin my visit to Madrid here. As His Eminence said, anyone who is in Madrid is from Madrid. And so, I too am here among you as another Madrileñan. Thank you, Madrid, for this welcome. A welcome which makes me feel part of a large and wonderful family, in which, as in all families, miracles of love take place. This is particularly true in this home, where no one remains alone. Here, each person's joy and sorrow are the joy and sorrow of all. By listening to one another, we face challenges together without disregarding the complexity of situations, and at the same time without neglecting the demands of charity and justice, in the context of dialogue with all those seriously concerned for humanity and for the world in which we live. Thus, CEDIA follows the path of the gospel in the footsteps of Jesus, the Son of God, who became man, not only to heal our illnesses and miseries, but to make them His own, except for sin, living as one of us in weakness, and identifying with everyone who suffers, even to the point of saying, just as you did it to one of the least of these who are members of my family, you did it to me. It is in this sense that we can understand the words we have just heard in the song. In every dream I sought you, and none was in vain. They sum up very well the testimonies we have heard and the work carried out here every day. Indeed, thanks to a dream and a small open door, small in size but immense in mercy, as His Eminence said, Niurka has given Ares and Athena life, her motherly love, the grace of baptism, and the promise of a happy future. Thanks to a dream and that same small door, Kadri has made it through the dark tunnel of the pandemic and a journey full of uncertainties. With the help of those who lent him a hand, showing him that they cared for and believed in him, he found a job and above all regained the desire not only to move forward, but also to support others, just as others have supported him. Thanks also to a dream and that same small door. Every day Alicia and the other volunteers at the Hope Project help so many women to start a new life and to regain dignity, independence, hope, and respect for the sacred value of their humanity. The symbols you have given me are also a message for everyone. The ribbon bearing the children's names expresses the joy that every birth brings to the world. The residence permit tells a story of effort and, above all, of commitment, honesty, and welcome. The sandal, which recalls Moses' encounter with God at Horeb, evokes the sacred ground that we are bound to respect in every human life. I express heartfelt gratitude to all of you for sharing your experiences of pain, which are above all full of light and that reflect like mirrors the love of God. Your testimonies open a window onto a vast panorama filled with countless mothers like Nurka, boys and girls like Ares and Athena, women and men like Kadri, and volunteers like Alicia, so many people, so many brothers and sisters, so many stories. These stories are so numerous that, as St. John says, if every one of them were written down, I suppose that the world itself could not contain the books that would be written. This comparison with the gospel is not forced, for the things that Jesus did, the things to which the evangelist refers, continue in these stories. In his remarks, the Archbishop spoke of the path that leads from Bethlehem to paradise. Madrid is also famous for the nativity scenes that adorn the city during the Christmas season. Their beauty, however, is but a pale reflection of an even greater and deeper wonder which we find here today. The lights, voices, and sounds that touch our hearts and bring tears to our eyes during the Christmas season are in reality carried within us, with us, and among us throughout the year. Today, they are more alive and radiant than ever in this place, around this simple and welcoming nativity scene, which, with God's help, you continue to prepare day by day, or literally, day and night, for Jesus, present in the people who come to the center's doorstep in search of help. The words Jesus spoke to his disciples have been chosen as the theme for this visit. Look around you. These words are an invitation to contemplate the fields that now ripe await the harvest, and they remind us that charity permits no delay. If the wheat is not harvested when it is ripe, the harvest is lost. This is our responsibility before those in need. It is a responsibility that consecrates every encounter with another as a kairos, a unique and unrepeatable moment of grace in which to love, which must not be lost or postponed. The love of Christ impels us towards our brothers and sisters, and the charity and concern with which we respond to its promptings are the proof of our faith. If we think about it carefully, in reality, Christians too, on a number of occasions, have succumbed to attitudes shaped by secular ideologies or political and economic approaches that lead to gross generalizations and mistaken conclusions. The fact that some dismiss or ridicule charitable works as if they were an obsession on the part of few and not the burning heart of the Church's mission convinces me of the need to go back and reread the Gospel, lest we risk replacing it with the wisdom of this world. The poor cannot be neglected if we are to remain within the great current of the Church's life that has its source in the gospel and bears fruit in every time and place. Jesus' words are also an invitation to cultivate a heart that is sensitive to the needs of others, keeping alive within us the desire for the good that God has placed in our very humanity, and that faith sets free and strengthens. Pope Francis said in this regard, faced with the mystery of life and the challenges of society, those who believe have a spring in their step, a passion, a dream to cultivate, an interest that impels them to personally commit themselves. He also warned of the danger of a flat, cold heart, accustomed to the quiet life which is encased in indifference and becomes impermeable. A living heart is warm and beating, and it gives life. A cold heart is motionless, no longer pumps blood, and leads to death. But I would like to highlight one final aspect of the Lord's invitation. It is also a call to look at those who suffer in the eye, and to make our assistance, above all, an encounter between brothers and sisters united in the Father's embrace. Pope Francis also greatly emphasized this point. He asked, "When you give alms, do you look the beggar in the eye? Do you touch his hand to feel his flesh?" And he concluded, alms are not the same as philanthropy. The person who receives the most grace from almsgiving is the one who gives, because he makes himself visible to the Lord's eyes. Those who truly love do more than give alms. They listen, they engage, they try to understand and deal with difficult situations and their causes. They consider not only material but also spiritual needs, and they work for the integral promotion of individuals. And we might conclude by looking to Mary, in whose charity all this finds its fulfillment. In her solicitous love at Cana, longing to follow in her son's footsteps, close and present at the foot of the cross to the very end. To her I entrust each one of you and your work in this land consecrated to her, hoping that the spirit of her universal motherhood may evermore animate the cry of faith. To her let us say, "Teach us to see you always as Mother, fountain of mercy, bosom of forgiveness, embrace of hope, gate of glory." Thank you.
Santidad, gracias por sus palabras. Aquí de verdad se mira con esos ojos del Señor, se mira al corazón de la gente. La cogemos sus palabras como una llamada.
Presenter here thanking Pope Leo XIV for his presence, for his words.
Antes de su llegada en este patio, hemos compartido testimonios, símbolos y música que expresan la vida acompañada por la Iglesia de Madrid. Personas que buscan, los ha escuchado algunos, un nuevo comienzo, voluntariado que camina al lado y una comunidad que quiere cuidar la dignidad de cada persona. Todo lo vivido ha quedado reflejado en este árbol que está viendo usted aquí, el árbol de la esperanza, lleno de flores con los colores de su visita, donde cada flor ha sido escrita.
He's explaining one of the gifts that has been chosen for Pope Leo XIV,
Queremos entregarle también una réplica
the Tree of Life,
como agradecimiento y compromiso de seguir acompañando, seguir cuidando y seguir creyendo que la esperanza puede echar raíces y dar fruto. Y para ello le vamos a presentar ahora a Alba.
It has been created in the occupational workshops of the Addiction Treatment Center of the Cáritas.
y que buscan recuperar su vida, sus vínculos y su futuro. Ella representa también a tantas personas que han decidido dedicar su vida profesional al servicio de las personas y de las familias más necesitadas, acompañando con respeto, con cercanía y con esperanza. Y hoy le trae este árbol de la esperanza realizado en los talleres ocupacionales de ese
This
centro.
is the tree, as I was saying, created in the Addiction Treatment Center of the Cáritas, made by hands learning to rebuild their lives and bearing the hopes and wishes of all those present who represent the Church's social outreach in Madrid. It embodies accompaniment, the memory of today's encounter and the symbol that has united the entire event. Holy Father, thank you for being here and for looking closely at this reality. This tree we present to you was made by people who are going through very difficult times, yet who find reasons every day to keep moving forward. At the center, we see how when someone feels listened to, welcomed, and cared for with affection, something begins to change. Trust returns, hope returns. This tree is born from that experience, from small gestures, from hands that learn to believe again, and from lives that gradually open themselves once more. Today, we would like you to take this tree with you. It's a mosaic of hopes, each leaf a wish, each wish a life seeking to move forward. Thank you for remaining close to those most in need. That gives them strength to continue. And this is the gift that Pope Leo XIV has brought from Rome to leave here at the center. It's an icon of Christ, face of love. So with that exchange of gifts, and the Pope, I think, is preparing to bless those present.
Bien, antes de dar la bendición, vamos a rezar por un momento.
So before the blessing,
Que Jesucristo nos enseñó.
let us
Padre
pray
nuestro,
together.
que estás
Our
en el
Father.
cielo, santificado sea tu nombre. Venga a nosotros tu reino. Hágase tu voluntad en la tierra como en el cielo. Danos hoy nuestro pan de cada día. Perdona nuestras ofensas, como también nosotros perdonamos a los que nos ofenden. No nos dejes caer en la tentación y líbranos del mal. El Señor esté con vosotros. Bendito sea el nombre del Señor. Nuestro auxilio es el nombre del Señor. La bendición de Dios Todopoderoso, Padre, Hijo y Espíritu Santo, descienda sobre vosotros y os acompañe siempre. Amén. Felicidades a todos. Muchas gracias por este testimonio.
Pope Leo XIV has imparted his apostolic blessing and thanked all those present for this moving event and for sharing their stories.
Gracias, Santo Padre. Pues va usted ahora a recorrer el pasillo para saludar, creo, a las personas.
Thank you, Holy Father, of course.
Para recibir su saludo y su bendición. Muchísimas gracias.
And we hear a closing song in the background. The Cardinal, the Archbishop of Madrid, accompanying the Pope, who is making his way out of the center, but on his way, he's stopping to greet those present, taking time to write words of closeness for them, shaking hands. Listening to more stories.
Estoy hecho
This moving encounter comes on the first day of Pope Leo XIV's 6-day Apostolic Journey to Spain, which will take him in the coming days also to Barcelona and to the Canary Islands, where he is particularly expected to spend time with the migrants who leave their homes, their continent, Africa in this case, sail up the very dangerous routes of the Atlantic Ocean in search of freedom, in search of a better life, in search of a job, to be able to feed their families, to offer a future to their own children. We see the Pope stopping to exchange words, to give his blessing to the many people who are at the center, to thank him for being here, to thank him for his words of closeness and for his attention to those who are at the heart of the Catholic Church and of the message of the gospel, those who are the most vulnerable, the most marginalized, those who suffer just as Christ did as he became man. The Pope's first day in Madrid does not end with this event. He will be going on to join a prayer vigil in Madrid with the faithful, with young people. Of course, we will be bringing you full coverage of that vigil on these same platforms this evening, on all Vatican News, Vatican Media platforms, on YouTube, on our social media platforms, and by providing the live streamed event of that prayer vigil, as well as we will be providing you with full coverage of the Pope's entire apostolic journey. He's scheduled to fly back to Rome on the 12th of June, wrapping up his 4th apostolic journey abroad, journey taking him to Spain after having traveled to Turkey and Lebanon, to the Principality of Monaco, and to 4 African countries in April. We remember him traveling to Algeria, to Cameroon, to Angola, and to Equatorial Guinea. Taking his time here to shake hands and to make every single person feel part of his attention, blessing babies, thanking volunteers, and just showing his closeness to all men and women of goodwill, in the hope of helping build a peaceful future for humanity. Pope Leo here again, taking his time to say farewell, to thank everyone for this very warm welcome. And we've been following Pope Leo XIV's visit to the CEDIA 24 Horas Center in Madrid, run by the Madrid Diocese. We've been listening to the testimonies of those who give life to this reality of solidarity, of charity, of fraternal love, of welcome, of inclusion. We've been listening to the testimony of a Cuban woman who arrived in Madrid and had nowhere to go, to a refugee from Senegal.
Santo Padre, bienvenido a la parroquia de la Crucifixión del Señor.
And here he arrives. It's a welcome to the parish of the Crucifixion.
Cáritas, comunidades parroquiales, congregaciones religiosas, asociaciones, personas que cada día con su dedicación y entrega
All made up of so many people who offer their love, their service, their charity. Thank you, Holy Father, for raising awareness and for the pastoral ministry of the Catholic Church.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you.
Es un gusto estar aquí. Estoy muy contento
It is
de
wonderful to be here. I'm happy
primera visita dentro
to
de la
start
diócesis de Madrid. Empezar
my
también
visit
en una parroquia
with a
que se
visit
llama Crucifixión,
to a
que es
parish called
señal
Crucifixion.
no de muerte,
It is not a
sino de
signal of
esperanza,
death,
de
it's a
nueva vida,
signal
de
of hope,
resurrección,
of
de
life, of
salvación
new
que
life,
Jesús
of
ofrece
resurrection.
a todos nosotros. Agradezco muchísimo todas las asociaciones representadas aquí.
Thank you to all those associations represented here. Thank you for your service. This is a true signal of hope in a world that needs the living word of the gospel. We must all feel on our skin, in our hearts, the word of the gospel against that culture of indifference. You offer a great possibility to offer a signal of hope to us and to the entire world. Thank you. Thank you for holding up the cross as a symbol of renewal and life, of walking together towards the joy of the resurrection. Thank you. And Pope Leo XIV will again bestow his apostolic blessing on those present.
Aunque en casa también lo podemos hacer, evidentemente, pero unidos así como una gran comunidad.
United this parish like a great community of faith, like Jesus taught us.
Que estás en el cielo, santificado sea tu nombre. Venga a nosotros tu reino, hágase tu voluntad en la tierra como en el cielo. Danos hoy nuestro pan de cada día. Perdona nuestras ofensas, como también nosotros perdonamos a los que nos ofenden. No nos dejes caer en la tentación y líbranos del mal. El Señor esté con vosotros. Bendito sea el nombre del Señor. Nuestro auxilio es el nombre del Señor. La bendición de Dios Todopoderoso, Padre, Hijo y Espíritu Santo, descienda sobre vosotros y con vosotros remanga siempre. Amén. Pues muchas gracias, felicidades, gracias por este hermoso servicio.
There the Pope was praying together with the community of the parish of the Crucifixion, of the representatives of the many charity organizations that give life to a culture of mercy and inclusion in Madrid, and where he also again imparted his apostolic blessing. Of course, everyone wants to greet him, to thank him. And we have the Cardinal here, the Archbishop of Madrid, just whispering in his ear who the people are, what charities they head or who they work for. All of them representatives of realities that bring solidarity, charity, compassion to the many people in need, be they victims of human trafficking, be they migrants without residence permits, be they homeless people who have lost their livelihoods, be they disabled people who are excluded from working, the many, many faces of a suffering humanity, but the many faces of those who dedicate their lives to bringing the word of the gospel and to bringing concrete assistance to those in need. Here we see the Cardinal Archbishop of Madrid, seems to know everyone, is telling the Pope each person's name, telling them what they do. We can see him succinctly explaining the enormous amount of work that all these people do to bring the word of the gospel, to bring the comfort of the gospel, and to bring help in so many forms, in the forms of a bed, of food, of showers, as we've heard, of psychological support. And here we have, as always, the Pope, who is being led out of the church, out of the parish, but who takes his time to look people in the eye, as we just heard him telling everyone to listen, to try and listen to their stories, and to make sure that every person feels he or she has a place in his attention, in his heart, in the heart of the church. As I was saying, the Pope will proceed to join a prayer vigil this evening, Saturday evening, on the very first day of his 6-day apostolic visit to Spain. This morning, exchanging a few words with journalists accompanying him on the papal flight, he told them that this is an apostolic visit that brings him great joy, that he is very happy to be able to meet with his flock, to share his hopes and his faith with Catholics in Spain, but not only with Catholics, with all men and women of goodwill, he said, because the Church has something to say to everyone. Of course, Vatican Radio, Vatican News, all Vatican media, all of our platforms, our social media platforms, will be bringing you full coverage of this intense journey that takes Pope Francis to Barcelona, and as I was saying, to the Canary Islands throughout the week. On Sunday morning, you will be able to follow a live stream of Holy Mass in Madrid as we prepare to end this live streamed broadcast of the Pope's visit to the CEDIA 24 Horas Center in Madrid. We invite you again to visit the Vatican News web portal, Facebook, Instagram, X, and the YouTube accounts for coverage of all the papal events. And of course, on behalf of Vatican Media, I would like to thank all our sound engineers, our coordinator, Alessandro De Carolis, our sound engineer, Luca Rossi, and our media partners, EWTN TV, Salt and Light TV, Shalom World TV, Atmardashan TV, Catholic TV, Catholic Faith Network in America, And those of you listening on radio, Radio Maria England, Luminous Radio India, Radio Maria Papua New Guinea, all of you who made this broadcast possible, and all of you, of course, for joining us. And a huge thank you to all of you joining through our dedicated American Sign Language broadcast made possible with the help of our friends at Deaf Catholic Youth Initiative for the Americas. I am Linda Bordoni. It's been a pleasure providing the English language commentary of this event. The presenter of the event here we see is just thanking those who participated and reiterating the openness of the center always to listen to all those who are in need of sharing and of asking. And so until next time, Laudetur Jesus Christus, praised be Jesus Christ.